It's the call up, and we have the second half of the futures game roster breakdown. This time, the American League for the Friday episode. Jack, we are going to keep it under an hour and a half today, though.
I hope so. We went 90 minutes the first time, and we were going to do all of them. And then we spent about 5 to 7 minutes on Andrew Abbott. And we were like, wait, this is totally unsustainable. So we kept it to the National League. And hopefully we're getting the American League done in under an hour here. Before we get into the American League, though, and we can do like the non-baseball related, like shoot the shit, how you doing thing if you want. But I also have the list of like updated guys that are filling in for players that are no longer playing in the futures game.
Yeah, so can we start with the fill-ins, kind of keep everybody briefed, because there were some important fill-ins, one of them being from the National League, where by the time we put the episode out, the roster change had been made. It was Jordan Lawler being added into the lineup now, or onto the roster, at least for the National League team, which is super exciting because Lawler's been putting up ridiculous numbers through low A, now getting acclimated to high A. What are the other swaps that we have?
Well, in the National League, we saw and we talked about Mark Vientos coming on in place of David Villar, who's now with the Giants. And then Brian Bayo, who's now with the Red Sox, was replaced by outfielder Dustin Harris in the Rangers system. So Dustin Harris is now an AL Futures game participant. Mark Vientos, NL Futures game participant. You mentioned Jordan Lawler. He's taking the place of Henry Davis, who's back on the IL after re-aggravating his wrist. And then 3 more replacements. And 4 of them, actually. 4? No, 3. I was right. 3. 2 in the National League, 1 in the American League. The 2 in the National League, Jose Ferrer of the Nationals replaces his fellow organization mate, Cade Cavalli. Cavalli will not be participating in the futures game, so it's Jose Ferrer. Also, our guy and guest on the call-up, Joey Wiemer, replaces Ezequiel Tovar.
Saw that.
So Tovar off, Wiemer invited to the futures game. He'll participate. And then in the American League, Nick Pratto is up. Nick Pratto is going to play in Toronto along with Michael Massey. Dude, how about, I mean, honestly, I think I'm more inclined to watch this Royals roster than the other one with all the anti-vax guys. With Pratto and with Michael Massey up. I mean, all the guys that are on the restricted list is 10. Toronto. Angel Zerpa is starting the game today. Like, they called up 4 of their top 10 prospects.
I love it. I love it. And it's obviously the circumstances are kind of wild, but I love that it forced the Royals to call up, some top prospects. And I mean, you look at what Nick Pratto's slow start was dynamite over the last month. I mean, the guy was putting up like a 170 WRC plus. I mean, just absolutely raking in every facet of the game. So I'm excited to see him up there now and get a chance there. But yeah, a bunch of shuffling right now for the futures game.
Yes, and Pratto off. Final move is I know a guy that you like, Alec Marsh, is taking Pratto's place. So Marsh, the pitcher, is taking the place of Pratto, the position player. Again, Ferrer in place of Cavalli, and then Joey Wiemer in place of Ezequiel Tovar.
Yeah, and it's interesting with Marsh. We'll get to him, like, really good stuff, but probably not putting up quite the numbers that you'd hope, but a lot of swing and miss there. But we'll start with the pitchers and kind of fly through it a little bit more efficiently this time, like we said. And Taj Bradley, a guy we've talked about on the show a little bit. I mean, a guy that we got to see in person, a dude that can really pitch, and it's the fastball that sets a tone, nasty slider along with it. It's kind of that Rays mold, right? I mean, having the high spin fastball and the just sharp horizontal breaking slider. We saw Bradley in person, but really, honestly, Jack, since we saw him earlier this year, he has seemed to step his game up a little bit. His command has improved. The fastball seems to have ticked up. Slider command wasn't there when we watched him. It is there now. I went back and watched. It looked like a different guy overall. And not that he looks bad when we saw him, but this is just a different dude. 21 years old. He's got a 170 ERA in AA right now, Jack. I mean, he's striking out nearly 11 batters per 9, walking only 2. This is another Rays prospect that has just developed incredibly well and could be looking at, a good spot in the big league rotation by next year.
Yeah, and doesn't it kind of feel like he's just beaming with confidence at the moment? We saw him and we saw, damn, high spin fastball, ton of ride, lives at the top of the zone. He should be more confident in that. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, he's a lot more confident in that. And he's just letting starts rip with that fastball. The thing that throws me about Taj Bradley, he's got that electric fastball. He can snap off a good slider here, Bradley, you mentioned 74 innings. He's got a 170 ERA, and he's walking 2.2 guys per nine. He's still striking out 11 per nine, so the stuff is still playing. The other thing, 3 wild pitches. That's nothing for a minor league pitcher.
Yeah.
3 wild pitches on the year.
Yeah.
How on earth does that happen? I'll tell you how. It's a guy that excels at the top of the zone, belt high and above, and can snap off his slider and has confidence in both of those pitches to place them within the strike zone and get swings and misses within the strike zone.
And only a 5% home run to fly ball rate. 4 home runs this year in 74 innings is really impressive. Blake Hunt behind the dish also helps a little bit with that as well. Great defender back there. A guy that's really boosted his stock this year, someone that I didn't really know how to feel about, Hunter Brown, a pitching prospect in the Astros organization, has really been good this year. He was somebody that I was not really expecting to make this leap this year. I thought maybe middle relief kind of option maybe for the Astros, and not that they're desperate for pitching in the starting pitching at least realm, and he could end up being more of a swingman for them. But Hunter Brown has been spectacular so far in his second stint in AAA. 2.38 ERA. He's striking out more than 12 per nine. The command is a little bit of a question. 32 walks in 72 innings. That's good for 4 walks per nine, but he's limited the damage. He's not giving up much contact at all. Only 48 hits in 72 innings. So while he is walking guys, it's not as big of a deal because he's not really giving up much hard contact whatsoever. And he's striking a lot of dudes out. Hunter Brown seems to be developing really nicely for the Astros, a 23-year-old who I think should put his stuff on display. It's a plus fastball and a hammer curveball. He can also mix in a slider. This guy could be a pretty darn good starter. Command obviously being the big question.
Yeah, Detroit stand up, grad of Wayne State University in Detroit. Shout out Hunter Brown. Yeah, I mean, he's been great for the Sugarland Space Cowboys. And last year, I do want to point to that hits number that you were talking about. You mentioned 48 hits in 72 innings. Last year, the whip was at 142. This year, the whip's at 111 because the hits per nine have gone from 8.5 per nine to a flat 6 hits per nine. Yeah. 6 hits per nine from a guy that can start and can go 5-6 innings with those 12 punch outs per nine, like you're mentioning. I understand the command woes, but if you're not allowing very many base hits, we see a guy with minimal command and lights out stuff excelling for the White Sox. And I think he's second in the American League in strikeouts right now in Dillon Cease. Like I don't like watching it personally, but it works.
You just have to have the mold of 3-4 pitches that you can attack a guy with, and the ability to get a swing and miss on almost any pitch in almost any spot. And I think Brown has that kind of stuff. So he's an interesting guy that, again, is in a good organization to kind of help him maximize his stuff. I mean, we've seen the Astros do that with plenty of vets. We've seen them do it with their youngsters now, with Javier, with Luis Garcia, with Framber. It's not a coincidence.
Think about what was happening with McCullers last year. Lance McCullers was so good last year. Everybody looked at him as a frontline guy. He was leading baseball in walks per nine by a very, very wide margin. He led everybody in walks, but here we are. He's got things that nobody can touch. They've got another guy like that.
100%. And I'm interested to see, how they weaponize him at the big league level. And this is one of those timing things where he might pitch in the futures game, make a couple more starts in the minors, and then could get his opportunity at the big leagues the second somebody goes down, or if they, want to use him in some sort of reliever capacity. A guy that has also, made some strides this year after being drafted in the second round in 2021, part of that just ridiculous draft class of pitchers from the LA Angels. They've seen a lot of those guys start to look pretty good. And Kai Bush, I would say, is leading the way there, or at least one of. 6'6" lefty, 22 years old, putting up really solid numbers in Double-A. He put up good numbers overall last year in short stints. We only saw about 12 innings, but the numbers were really strong there. This is a pitchability lefty with good stuff across the board. Fastball has some good ride to it. Slider works well off of it, and he mixes in, that bender, that slower bender of a curveball. I saw some iffy grades on his command, but I think the command is above average, and that's why he's been successful. He's a big dude that still repeats his delivery pretty well for his size for a big lefty, and this is a much needed prospect for the Angels, and just one of those pitchers that they really wanted to go get and throw into their system. And I've heard nothing but good things about him from those who have had to face him in Double-A. He's a difficult at bat, hits his spots well, and mixes pitches well. Is a solid pitcher for the Angels.
Yeah, really weird backstory on Kai Bush, and I'm sure that the broadcast is going to get a little bit deeper into it. Maybe we'll see what they want to do there. But Kai Bush from Ogden, Utah, and Ogden, Utah is kind of middle of nowhere. He was drafted out of high school. He opted to go to Washington State, and in 2019 at Wazoo, he was awful, like full blown awful. 39 innings, 77 hits, 55 earned runs. That's a 13 year. He was terrible. And then he goes to the Alaskan Summer League. He goes dark in 2020. He didn't pitch at all in the COVID shortened 2020 season. And then he resurfaces at St. Mary's, the Gales, which is the team that contends with Gonzaga in basketball in the West Coast Conference every year. He resurfaces at St. Mary's and has a sub-3 ERA in 14 starts. And he strikes out 112 guys. He walks 19 in 78 and a third. So he went from being drafted out of high school out of middle of nowhere, Utah, showing up to the Pac-12, getting ran out of the gym, getting ran out of the conference, goes to Alaska, things start to click in 7 starts in the Alaskan Summer League, and then pitches again in 2021, is good enough to get drafted in the second round by the Angels. And then here he is throwing to a 3.5 ERA with Rocket City in AA.
What a story. It's a little bit not as dramatic, but similar story with Tarek Skubal at Seattle, who, was a disaster in the early parts of his career. And then, really figured it out. This was even more dramatic from Kai Bush. And St. Mary's is a place that's turned out some good talent over the last couple of years. We got Corbin Burns, Tony Gonsolin, Pat Wisdom, Kyle Barraclaw, Mark Teahan, just to name a few. So maybe Kai Bush could be the latest name. And it's funny just because you look at him now and you'd be like, oh, that's just a polished lefty who has really just probably carved his way through every stop of his baseball career. Not so much. Nope. And that was a really interesting backstory there that I actually didn't know on Kai Bush, but the numbers are strong. Fastball sits 92, 94. He'll grab a 5 when he needs it. And then the slider is a great, 82 to 83 mile an hour pitch off of that. Also a solid changeup as well. Next up is a pitcher who has probably come out of nowhere, I would say, for most people, unless you're a Tigers fan. Wilmer Flores. Wilmer Flores related also to the other Wilmer Flores. I believe they're brothers. Wilmer Flores, right-handed pitching prospect in the Tigers system, 6'4", 225 pounds. He has been dynamite this year. The slider is one of the best in the minor leagues, I would say. And the fastball has the profile that you want to have off of that kind of slider. He has put up ridiculous strikeout numbers, and it continues to prove that this isn't a flash in the pan, and just continues to double down on great starts after great starts after great starts. This is a dude we talked about in the last episode. This is one of those guys I think people are going to see his slider, and he's going to be on Pitching Ninja, and people are going to be like, whoa, wait, Wilmer Flores is a brother named Wilmer Flores. And it's going to get viral because of that, but also because of the fact that a slider even caught the attention in the first place.
It was funny. Last year, he was like just good enough to keep on climbing, but he was not spectacular by any stretch. And last year was his first year stateside. And like, here we are. I think he was drafted, right? I think he went to Arizona Western College. Maybe he was undrafted in 2020. He was undrafted. I think that sounds right. Maybe undrafted in 2020. But I know that he came stateside. And first year in the Tigers organization was last year as a 20-year-old. And, he struggled in 3 appearances in rookie ball, but then he went to low A Lakeland and was like 3.5 ERA in 11 starts, like pretty solid. This year he starts in high A after a rough go of it in the fall league for a couple innings. In high A, he was gross. He was sub 2 ERA in 6 appearances, 19 2/3, 35 punch outs, 2 walks. Insane in high A. So then he goes to double, and through 10 starts, he's got a 2.4 ERA. I mean, he kind of just came out of nowhere this year. He turned from last year to holy cow, who is this guy? He's totally deserving of a Futures game nod this year.
And I mean, what's also amazing is the stuff is great, but the command has stayed there too. He's striking out more than 11 per 9, but keeping the walks at 1.7 per 9. Spectacular. That's at the AA level too. So it's not just a high A situation where you can just dominate guys with your fastball and one breaking ball and, kind of be in business. He's mixing it up. He looks really good. He's pounding the strike zone and he's getting a ton of swings and misses. 52 strikeouts against 8 walks. It's as good as it gets. It's really as good as it gets for a young pitcher. And remember, he's actually still just 21 years old, pitching in AA with high success.
Yeah, and I'm sure what it feels like when you're locked in. Like, I'm sure this guy's just been locked in. He probably had something click at some point in the spring, and he was like, damn, I feel good. And there are certain guys that when they're locked in, doesn't matter what level they're at. Like they're still going to throw to a sub-3 ERA. There's a chance that Wilmer Flores could be pitching for the Tigers right now and be striking dudes out, not really walking very many dudes. Of course, big league hitters are going to figure something out quick, but I mean, like he's locked in. It's very obvious that he is locked in this year.
And I mean, the breaking ball is what really kind of leads the way for him. 44% chase rate on his curveball, swinging strike rate of 22%. I mean, that's got to be one of the best in the minor leagues, period. And again, he's got the build to it, 6'4", about 240 pounds is what he's listed at now.
Big boy.
That's a big dude who really commands his stuff well at the same time. Speaking of command, Emerson Hancock, somebody that when he was drafted, and we've talked about this, seemed like more of a stuff first guy. And now he's more of a, I would say pitchability guy first, but also has the stuff to complement it. He's posted nearly actually the identical numbers to last year. Actually, this is pretty weird. Overall, I know it was a small sample size. We only saw 14 innings in Double-A from him last year, but he put up an 8.56 K9 and a 2.63 walks per nine. Through 10 starts this year, he's done the exact same thing. So we're seeing Emerson Hancock of the Mariners organization, really mix up his 3 pitches pretty well. I would say even 4 pitches pretty well. Sometimes the breaking balls can blend together. But I think the biggest surprise to me is that the fastball isn't quite as lively, not a plus fastball like we thought it would be. But even so, finding a lot of success, 2.41 ERA in those 10 Double-A starts, but only 41 innings. So I want to see them stretch him out a little bit. Obviously, the futures game is not going to be where that happens, but he is still a very talented arm who I guess the Mariners are treading lightly with.
You mean that in a 7-inning game, when you have 10 pitchers on the roster, a guy's not going to go 6 innings?
I don't think so, but it's funny. They're kind of treating him like that already. Like he's going 2, 3, 4 inning starts.
I know. With Hancock, this is his second futures game. And just looking around the industry, we're actually higher on Hancock than I think anybody else is this year. And I don't remember where you stood last year, but at the beginning of last year, when he was drafted, he was, a top 60 guy. He was 57 for Baseball America. He was 31 for Pipeline, and he was 50 for Prospectus. This year, going into this season, 87 by Prospectus, 82 by Pipeline, and not in the top 100 according to Baseball America.
Oof.
And we still have him as a top 70 guy. I think he's a top 70 guy. The stuff obviously plays, and if he can throw all of his pitches for strikes, I think you're looking at a guy with a lower ceiling than Kirby, but not far off in the floor department.
Yeah, it's funny because I think what resulted in some of that like air being let out of his balloon a little bit, I guess, is that the stuff wasn't plus across the board like they were hoping. But, you're looking at a dude that still has an above average to plus slider. The fastball's still good. It sits 94 miles an hour. I mean, it's a good pitch and he locates it well and he gets swinging strikes on it. And he's got a good feel for the changeup overall. It's really not bad. So is he going to be an ace like we once hoped when he was being considered as maybe the 1-1 at one point? Probably not, but this could be, like you said, I think a little bit of a watered down Kirby, which is still great. I think he could be a very solid middle of the rotation starter. But I think just some of the reason, like the stuff just not being quite what everybody imagined it could be, has hurt him a little bit, but at least he's compensated for that with really solid command.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I'm thinking, who was an incredibly successful college arm that, just threw everything for strikes and might not have the craziest stuff? Oh, I know. The guy that was taken about 4 picks after him in 2020, Reed Detmers, I think it'll be very similar to Detmers, right? Where he's a mid-4 ERA, but obviously like when the stars align, Reed Detmers can throw a no-hitter. That's who Emerson Hancock is. There's a chance that he can put together great starts, but overall, I think he's going to take a while to find himself. And I think that the stuff needs to tick up, mostly like Reed. I think Reed, his stuff needs to tick up. I think Hancock's stuff needs to tick up. And I don't think there's much that they can do in the minor leagues to hope for that. I think it just happens when they're like 25, 26 years old.
No, I agree. And it's one of those things that just, it seems to come later for a lot of pitchers. I've looked at breakout prospects now all the time when we're doing those episodes or writing articles. And it always seems like there's an uptick sometimes at 24, 25 years old for some of these pitchers, whether they find something workout wise, or it's the man strength that kind of comes on later. There's a lot of different things that can help you there. But kind of on the opposite side of things is Jack Leiter. And Jack Leiter, of course, was always going to be in this game, no matter how well or how poorly he pitched.
Could have a 20 ERA. He was going to be in the
he could legitimately be the worst pitcher in the minor leagues. And you know what? I know we were talking about it last time that it's sometimes it's just the names. I would still want Jack Leiter in this game with a 20 ERA because I can watch this guy pitch all day. He carries himself so well. His stuff is great. But right now, it's just not looking great out of the gate for Jack Leiter. And I think the AA assignment was a little bit aggressive because we have to remember this was somebody that didn't throw that many innings in college, had that big, I guess you would call it junior season, but ultimately we didn't really see a large sample size. He didn't have a ton of innings under his belt to really just mature and he's already mature. I mean, mentally, but like physically on the mound and just gain that pitchability and gain, just that comfort and feel. It was a big assignment to send him to double. And in 50 innings so far this year, Jack, he has walked 30. He is punching out 62, but he's got a 6.3 ERA. And that got, I would say just bumped up quite a bit in his last outing. He went less than 2 innings, gave up 7 runs. So prior to that, the ERA was a little bit more reasonable. But I think the AA assignment was just too aggressive. That being said, I'm going to enjoy watching him throw in the futures game. His stuff is great.
I'm going to enjoy watching him throw in the futures game too. And listen, man, I mean, AA baseball, I don't want anybody to tell me that throwing in the SEC is comparable to any level of minor league baseball because it's just not. It's not. And you can watch college baseball and say like, oh, these guys are good. This has to be equivalent to like high A ball, AA ball. I've heard that so many times.
It's just not.
No, it's not. It's not.
Not even
Jack Leiter. I mean, not even the Cape, dude. The Cape is probably equivalent to what we saw from like rookie ball, from like the 18, 19-year-old, dudes that just came over from the Dominican Summer League. With Jack Leiter, when he threw 110 innings at Vandy last year, under 4 hits per 9 against him.
Yeah.
Now he's allowed 50 hits in 50 innings.
Which is fine. That's normal.
It's normal. But like he was
you can't
never
walk
gonna,
guys with that.
No, I mean, like, I think that the days of having like this stud starter in college going right to Major League Baseball are over. Now, a guy like Crochet, who was sitting 100, 101 when he was taken, and like Ben Joyce, you could take Ben Joyce from this draft and put him directly in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, those are really
he throws 125 miles an hour. Like, that's that. He's an outlier. Leiter is 93 to 95 for the most part. And he was the type that filled up the strike zone. And now he's not filling up the strike zone because he's lacking confidence because he's seeing the best hitters that he's ever seen in his life.
Exactly. You can't just get out of a 3-1 count by blowing a fastball by a guy.
Yeah, that's not how AA ball works.
You can get those, you locate it well, but you saw Jack Leiter at times last year. I would watch most of his starts, and again, super talented. And I'm a huge fan of his, the way he carries himself, his athleticism. I know he's going to figure it out and he's going to be just fine. This is more just about the approach here. 3-1 count. He could go middle with a fastball. And unless he's facing Dylan Cruz or somebody like that, he's just not going to get burned with that high spin, 95 mile an hour fastball, 97 mile an hour fastball. He could go middle and erase that hitter's count. You can't do that in AA. And seems like he's fallen behind guys early. The fastball command is a little bit sporadic. He's spraying it right now. But the curveball has looked pretty decent. The slider has continued to look better. That's probably been his best pitch this year. He's sitting about 95 miles an hour with the fastball, 85 with the slider, upper 70s with the curveball. He's going to be fine. And this is just some necessary adversity here. I just think that the AA assignment was probably a little bit quick. And I think we're in agreement on that one.
But he's going to figure out how to swim. He's going to figure out how to survive there. And once he figures out how to survive, he will start thriving. And then he'll go to AAA.
Well, you know who's thriving? Ricky Tiedemann.
Yeah.
Ricky Tiedemann of the Toronto Blue Jays, left-handed pitching prospect, who another really emergent guy because, yes, he was drafted relatively early in 2021. He was a 3rd-round pick, 91st overall. But I don't think anybody expects their 3rd-round pick, 91st overall, to, out of high school, just be able to carve the way that Tiedemann has. And he made a mockery of low A competition. In 30 innings, he struck out nearly 15 per 9 and put up a 180 ERA. He gets to bump up to high A, and it's been more of the same. 2.39 ERA, he's striking out nearly 13 per 9, and the walk rate's actually dropped by a full walk per 9. So you're seeing somebody really start to hone in on his command a bit more. Tiedemann's got good, really good stuff, deceptive release that it makes it kind of difficult to pick up, and command that continues to get better. At 19 years old, this guy's starting to look like one of the more exciting pitching prospects in the game.
103 punch outs in 67 and 2/3 innings across low and high A. Like that's going to play anywhere. And we talk about a guy like Wilmer Flores being locked in. Ricky Tiedemann is as locked in as anybody. Tiedemann, I think he was a JUCO guy, Golden West College in California.
Was he a JUCO guy? Yeah.
I think he was a JUCO guy for a year, and I don't know how he did in JUCO, but this is a guy who's 19 years old that is up in high A and just turned 19, literally just turned 19, or no, about to turn 20 here.
Oh, I have it back in
August.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
About to turn 20. But I mean, this is a teenager who is excelling in high A. I think he's headed in New Hampshire very soon, right? 8 starts. He's got a 2.4 ERA. I think this is a guy that, he's got until August 18th to get to AA as a teenage pitcher. Do we think he can do it?
We talk about rushing guys and everything, but I don't know if it's really rushing Tiedemann at this point, because he's using everything too. It's the fastball he's dominating hitters with. I'm curious if we'll be able to do that at the same level, kind of like we're talking about in AA, but it'd be a good challenge. The changeup is what really helps him, though, is the mid-90s fastball with his changeup working off of it, and then he has the slider as well. The fact that he's already got 3 pitches that he has confidence in, that he's posting above average swinging strike rates on, that's a guy that could probably climb pretty quickly. And at 6'4", 220 pounds, he's got the build. The command getting better after the promotion is another huge thing for me. I'm really excited about what this guy's doing, and I think we could see him in double by the end of the year.
Ricky Tiedemann has faced 260 hitters. How many guys have hit a home run off of him?
Honestly, I'm not looking. I can't see it. So I'm going to say he's given up 2 home runs.
He's given up 3 home runs.
Ooh, that's impressive. No one's barreling this guy.
Nobody.
And can I say one thing? Guess who hit one of the home runs?
Low A or high A?
I think it was high A. It was Kyle Lewis on a rehab start.
Okay.
And then Noel V. Marte.
2.5 homers.
Yeah.
We'll call it.
Yeah. And Noel V. Marte too. Call it 2. It's one of the top prospects in baseball, and then a big leaguer. Literally rookie of the year. So Tiedemann's special. He's hard to barrel up, and I'm excited to get more looks at him because admittedly I've not seen a ton, but so far so good from Ricky Tiedemann. Guy that just made it into our top 100 in the preseason, Ken Waldichuk.
Yeah.
Left-handed pitching prospect in the Yankee system. He rounded out our top 100 list going into this season. And Waldichuk is another southpaw who's deceptive, hard to read his stuff. We gave out the Trevor Rogers comp kind of with Kyle Harrison. I think Ken Waldichuk might even be more Trevor Rogers than Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison's a little bit more Kyle Harrison, if that makes sense. Like he's got some uniqueness to him. Waldichuk is very similar to Trevor Rogers. It's a fastball that is tough to pick up with ride from his arm slot, which is like a 3/4-ish arm slot. Then he has the changeup from that same tough spot that you can't tell the difference until it's too late, similar to Kyle Harrison. And then the slider has improved so much. So now he has those 3 pitches. But the fastball changeup combination, top, bottom of the zone, working both of them, he is so hard to hit. And his velocity has ticked up this year, closer to sitting in the mid-90s now, which has been a huge help for him. He's been really good this year and could be pitching his way to the Yankees soon if Severino's hurt and some other guys might be hurt. He might be one of the first dudes in line to be able to get an opportunity in that rotation.
Second St. Mary's Gale, we're talking about Ken Waldichuk. Yeah, I mean, Waldichuk, like he got the AA assignment at the beginning of the year, and that was too easy for him. Like it was pretty much an FU to the Yankees for putting him in Somerset. It was like, no, I'm a AAA arm. So he gets to triple, and he's normalized as much as you want, right? A mid-3 ERA. So he's still looking good. Do you think he could get up there as a swingman, as a multi-inning reliever this year?
Yeah, I think so. There's a more of those fastball changeup relievers now. And I think he could really just lean in on that. And in spurts, I think he'd be more 95, 97 in 2-inning spurts.
He's really always been a starter. I have no idea like how he's going to survive there. Since he's gotten, I mean, so far this year, he hasn't made an appearance out of the bullpen. No. I wouldn't mind seeing him make a couple appearances out of the bullpen, and we're going to get the opportunity to see that in the futures game.
we saw that the Yankees use Luis Gil in a few different ways. And I'm very excited because this is a specific spot, Jack, like you mentioned, where in the futures game, we can actually get a taste of what his legitimate role could be. I want to see him in a 1 inning spurt, see if he pushes some 97s, pushes some, maybe even touches some 98s. I think it's capable, or he's capable of it. I've seen him touch 97 in spots, in starts. Could he get, I think if you have him in 1 or 2 inning spurts too, he might be able to snap that slider a little bit harder. The stuff might just tick up a little bit. But so far this season, he's been really good. He's been able to mix in the slider, the changeup, a curveball as well. It's just a great arsenal. With command is somewhat of the question, but I think for a big lefty, he's gotten better and better in that regard. And that would be a great role for him. I would love to see how he does in that role for the Yankees. And you can stretch him out if you really need it. It's kind of similar to how even Nestor was serving a purpose for them last year, similar to that kind of role as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think that is probably where he best serves the Yankees this year. And I genuinely think that he can serve the Yankees a good purpose this year, especially if Sevy's issue is as serious as we think it could be.
Yeah, and hope everything's good with Sevy, because he's so good when healthy, but that's always the big if.
Not healthy, yeah.
When healthy. Speaking of healthy, the last pitcher we're going to talk about here is Yosver Zulueta. I hope I said that right.
I have no idea.
Yosver Zulueta. It might be Zulueta. It's Zulueta. Tore his ACL last year, so he was out pretty much for the entire season. Now back and started in high A, now in double A. They're using him in really small spurts as well. Nasty stuff. Fastball that sits 97, a good curveball, and a good slider. Screams reliever to me, especially at 24 years old, but a really good one. He's Rule 5 eligible, so it's going to be interesting to see how the Blue Jays decide to navigate this, because I could see a team taking a chance on just somebody with his kind of stuff, a plus fastball and a good breaking ball. I could see that. So we might see him get a chance in the big league bullpen, but this is somebody I'm excited to just see in person, or not in person, but see, a little bit more of on a normal camera angle and see how the stuff works, because it looks pretty good on paper in terms of the metrics.
Let's see. Has anybody? I'm scanning the internet for a possible pronunciation of Yosver Zulueta. I had never heard of this guy. When he appeared on the futures game roster, I was like, who? Him and an outfielder that we're going to get to. I was like, I had no clue who they were. But yeah, very short spurts. There's nothing that, I can take away from the baseball reference page here. And I haven't had a chance to watch him. So listen, if you've seen enough and continue to gush about him, I will figure out a way to properly pronounce his name, and I'll let you know next time we hop on a mic together.
I haven't seen enough to gush about him, but I'm excited to see him in the futures game, because I know his fastball is really fast. So that's what I'm looking forward to, but I can't pretend that I have much to say on him. But that's what makes the futures game fun, is every once in a while there's a new guy that you can get a little bit of a look at, and it might be the first kind of almost display
introduction.
Yeah, the introduction for them to the prospect world in a lot of ways. Getting to the position player side of things, we'll start at now catcher. We got Yainer Diaz over in Houston, and he has some ridiculous power for a catcher. I like the glove. I like everything about this guy's game behind the dish. And it's funny because they have Corey Lee, but Yainer Diaz could end up kind of leapfrogging him at some point, potentially, if he continues on his trajectory. Diaz, 23 years old, plus raw power, good defender, doesn't strike out a lot, doesn't walk either. He swings a lot and makes a lot of contact. That's fine for my catcher, because he runs in to home runs. 14 homers this year already between AA and AAA. I've even heard from some guys in the Astros organization that have said, man, you got to see Diaz just hit. You got to see him take batting practice. Like, he's got crazy power. His 106 mile per hour, 90th percentile exit velo would attest to that. That's about 5 miles per hour above good and about 8 miles per hour above average. So this is a very, very solid all around player. And he's really interesting, because I don't think a lot of people know about him.
Yeah, I knew I had heard the name before, and I was like, where have I heard this name? And then it turns out he was a Mahoning Valley scrapper in 2019. So I saw him play a little bit in short season ball with the Cleveland Guardians organization. And he was with Phil Maton at last year's deadline. He was shipped from Cleveland to Houston for Miles Straw. Yeah, from Cleveland to Houston for Miles Straw. Went from Houston to Cleveland. So this is a guy that the Guardians viewed highly, not as highly as a Bo Naylor or a Brian Labastida. So felt okay moving off of him. You said that you wouldn't be shocked if he displaces Corey Lee. I'd be kind of shocked if he displaces Corey Lee.
I just think the bat might be better. It might just be better. We'll see.
Corey Lee's defense. Corey Lee is a great defender.
Well, they might be the tandem in the future, right? Like Maldonado might just ultimately be the
Maldonado. How old is Martin Maldonado?
34.
Yeah, I mean, he plays like he's 48.
Yeah, he looks really old. I mean, I know he's hitting the ball hard this year, though, like as hard as ever. But relatively speaking, that's not saying much. They could have a nice little tandem. I think it could be a young tandem of catchers here, and both have good enough bats. Especially, I think Diaz's bats probably long term going to be a little bit better. Yeah. Could justify maybe a little bit of a DH split as well at times. It just gives you a little bit. I know. Yeah, they
just paid their DH.
They put him in the outfield. They put Alvarez in the outfield. You know that. They do that sometimes. It just gives them a little bit of flexibility. But having a catcher who can swing it and also defend, what are you going to do? You tell him to kick rocks? I don't think Corey Lee is a shoe-in the way that, maybe it's made out to be in some ways. I don't know. Yeah. I think it's going to be it's a good insurance policy regardless.
I understand. Yeah, it's nice when your insurance policies in the futures game for sure.
Exactly. Dillon Dingler is another one that I know you've liked Dingler for a while, even coming out of Ohio State where he was playing center field at the time when he was getting drafted, splitting time between catcher and center field to tell you what kind of athlete he is. The Tigers got a good one there, 38th overall in the 2020 draft. The bat slowed down big time when he made the jump to AA. That's common. It's a lot of an undertaking when, you are trying to adjust defensively and offensively at the AA level. Now settles back in this year. He's been much better offensively, walking twice as much, hitting for more power, and just all around a better hitter. 102 WRC plus, 240, 327, 405 slash line, 8 homers. A little bit of swing and miss there, but he did not have that many ABs under his belt due to COVID, injury, some other things throughout his collegiate career. Injury limited him from the Cape as well. So he is relatively young, even though he's 23. He's young in his professional development or even in his just baseball development in his life. I mean, this is somebody that can continue to get better before our eyes. And this is not the best of Dillon Dingler, which is still an above average, well-rounded catcher at the AA level.
Yeah. You said a little bit of swing and miss. I'll scrap the little bit. Like he's got swing and miss. He's got a hammer out here. And this is apparent this year. He's got 93 punch outs in 71 games. Last year, it was not that apparent. 36 punch outs in 32 games in high A, in 50 games in AA, 62 strikeouts in 50 games. So, he is swinging and missing more. And I don't know if that's, an emphasis on trying to hit for a little bit more power. He's got 8 pumps so far this year. I think when he's at his best, he's just like the most athletic player on the field. He's the catcher that could go play anywhere else. And I feel like he's not doing that right now. I think he's trying to be something that is unnatural to him. And what's natural to him is not only good enough, but it's possible star.
What I will say though is I do like that he's walking twice as much, right? So if your strikeout rate's going to go up 1% at the AA level, but your walk rate is going to go up 4% as well, you take that K to BB ratio any day of the week. I still agree he's got to cut down on the swing and miss, especially because he's not going to be a guy that runs in as many home runs as Shea Langeliers, who we're going to get to. So
yes.
I think with where he's at in his development, not that many ABs under his belt, even going back to college and in the summer circuit, he'll get there. And would you not say that this year, though, overall has been a step in the right direction after how he struggled in double last year?
No, he looked overmatched by AA pitching last year after the call up from high A because of what you mentioned. He was trying to get acclimated defensively, and the defensive change, the defensive comfortability gets emphasized from a catcher over offensive. So last year was the defensive chance to transition. This year is the offensive chance to transition. And I think this version of Dillon Dingler is better than the one that, we saw at the AA level, but high A last year, as I think, best case for Dillon
is what
Dingler.
He can be at the highest level. That's what you're hoping.
It's what
for.
he can be.
And I mean, athletic catchers, we love that. And that's exactly what he can be. More traditional high-end catcher, though, is Shea Langeliers, who's an elite defender, or at least fringe elite in terms of what he can do behind the dish, rocket for an arm, moves really well. Centerpiece, if you ask me, in that Matt Olson trade, and really should be up now. And it's really a matter of whether they part ways with Sean Murphy or not.
Yeah.
And that's really the only reason whether Shea Langeliers will be the starting catcher in Oakland, because he's hitting 273, 366, 505 with 16 homers, 12% walk rate, 23% K rate. That's in AAA. So I'm not sure what else you really want from your catcher at this point. He's 24 years old. So I think it's time to see what he can do. There's not much more defense production, or I guess defense improvements that he really needs to make. Let's get this guy to the big leagues, but I am glad that we're going to get to see a good look at him in the futures game. And this guy's going to be a good catcher for a long time.
And hopefully it's the last look at him as a minor leaguer. I mean, yeah. I'm done with Shea Langeliers being in the minor leagues, because you mentioned, like, what are we waiting for? And Shea has done all he has needed to do to get the bump. It's literally all about Sean Murphy, and Sean Murphy should go. It feels like the A's front office has been on vacation all year.
Yeah,
I don't know what they're doing. So they should get rid of Frankie Montas. They should get rid of Sean Murphy, stack with more prospects, and allow Shea Langeliers to be your everyday catcher, because he's going to be your everyday catcher for the next 6 years before they refuse to pay him when he hits the open market.
Yeah, unless the team relocates by the time he hits free agency. We'll see.
He might not have to move. He's a Las Vegas Aviator right now. He might just stay in Vegas.
Just by the time they call him up, they might be in Vegas already.
Yeah, be like, hey, man, we're moving. We're coming to you. You're not coming to us.
Oh, gosh. But he is a very, very, very high floor catcher who could also give you more than enough ceiling, and I think could be an all-star at the position given the limitations offensively that we see there. Where there is no shortage of offense is in the infield, and Gunnar Henderson has really emerged now as one of the best prospects in baseball. I think we saw baseball MLB Pipeline put him at 5, which is wild in their update, but you can really understand why. One of the youngest players, just turned 21 years old at the AAA level, has mashed at every stop so far this year and going into the end of last year, makes incredible decisions swing wise, does not expand the zone, can hit lefties. His 90th percentile exit velo is top of the charts. I mean, 107 mile an hour, 90th percentile exit velo is absurd. He can go foul pole to foul pole with home runs. He is a good shortstop, could be an elite third baseman. This guy's quickly turning into one of the most exciting prospects in baseball, period, and could help the surging Orioles not too long after this futures game. This might be one of our last looks at Gunnar Henderson, the prospect.
Dude, that Miller High Life after that cycle must have felt so good on his 21st birthday. You got to crack into the champagne of beers.
The champagne of beers.
He hit 312 with an OPS over 1,000 in like 50 games in Bowie. And they said, damn, this is kind of crazy. Like, you're still 20, so I guess we'll move you to triple. And here he is, just still wrecking AAA pitching. I was texting with a buddy, like, think about how nutty it is that the Orioles could be replacing, winning 10 in a row, like having all the excitement up at the big league level. The Orioles next year can replace Rougned Odor, Jorge Mateo, and Ramon Urias with Gunnar Henderson, Jordan Westberg, and Kobe Mayo. That's cheat code.
It's cheat code. And that's not even considering like Terran Vavra, who's been swinging it really well in AAA.
Vavra's been solid in triple. Really solid. I mean,
it's and I still like Connor Norby. They've got Kyle Stowers. They've got, of course, Colton Cowser. Heston Kjerstad's been dominating through the lower levels. This is such a fun system. I'm interested to see what the Orioles do. But Henderson's ascension into blue chip prospect status just really helps put them over the top. And it seems like this is all happening while the big league team is thriving. So much fun. Before I move off of Henderson, numbers across all the levels so far this year: 293, 428, 538 slash line, 18% walk rate, 21% K rate, and 161 WRC plus. I mean, that's just some next level stuff right there. Dude, next up is Curtis Mead. And Curtis Mead of the Tampa Bay Rays, infielder, starting to tap into that power again, starting to really get going, and got, the promotion to AAA. Of course, Mead has just continued to do what he does, and that's hit. But In his 56 games in Double-A, 305, 394, 548 slash line, 10 home runs, 10% walk rate, 18% K rate. Easy plus hit tool, above average power that he continues to get better at tapping into. I think he can play a decent third base as well. Curtis Mead is a high floor, but really solid prospect at 21 years old. Is going to be the kind of guy that I think can do a little bit of everything. 280, a ton of doubles, and mix in 20 to 25 home runs, get on base at a high clip if it all works out for him.
Yeah, I feel like we've gushed about Curtis Mead a lot, especially after our Deep South trip. So I'll just leave it at great accent. I was listening to the Rays radio broadcast, and they were talking to Taj Bradley and Curtis Mead about, being invited to the Futures game. And Curtis Mead in his, Aussie down under accent was talking about how his family won't be able to be there because they were, in the US for a month and they just flew back to Australia, but his girlfriend and her family is going to be there. So he's going to have a support system, and he said it in a super funny way. So that's my hit on Curtis Mead.
He's funny. I love the Australian accent, and he's a lot of fun. Another dude that's a lot of fun is Jackenzie Noel, who is he still pacing the minors in homers?
I think so.
I mean, last time I checked, this dude mashes 25 pumps already this year. Sure, there's some swing and miss, but he's 20 years old. They're going on 21 very soon and already playing through the higher levels. And he's limited to probably DH first base type of situation here, but the power is immense. 90th percentile exit velo of 109, which is off the charts, even at the big league level. The power is 70, maybe even close to 80 grade raw power. He's tapping into it. Consistency is a question, but man, I'm going to watch Noel every time he gets up to bat in this game, just in the off chance that he runs into one 480 feet, which could very well happen. It'll be a lot of fun to watch.
So Jackenzie Noel has 25 homers, which is in a three-way tie for the lead. Moises Gomez. Do you know who the other one is?
Moises Gomez, the third guy?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'll be mad when you tell me. I'll be mad when you tell me, but just tell me.
Nicholas Northcutt.
Oh, no, I actually wouldn't have known that. Wow. Nicholas Northcutt?
Yeah, Red Sox guy, low A and high A. He's got 25 pumps.
Good for Nicholas Northcutt.
Yeah, I have no idea. Also, your guy and guest of the call-up, Matt Mervis, is the minor league leader in RBIs right now.
Dude, Matt Mervis is insane. They should have put him in this game, to be honest. If it really was about the best performers in the minor leagues, Matt Mervis, first player in minor league baseball with 20 doubles and 20 homers, should be in that game. But unfortunately, Merv does not get the nod in this one. But we move on to, I want to say his name right, Ceddane Rafaela. We've talked about him because that is 100% dude in the Red Sox system that has come out of nowhere. Rafaela, aggressive as all hell, swings at everything, but he hits everything. And that's really what's been impressive. Has not really blinked since being promoted from high A, where he hit 330, now hitting 282. In Double-A, 9 home runs in 45 games. In high A, 7 home runs in 29 games in Double-A. He is just not slowing down. He's also swiped 19 bags. He's athletic. He makes great plays in the outfield, but can also play third. He's a plus runner. This dude came out of nowhere, and you look at, he's like, this could be 5-tool potential.
Just another Curacao guy. Another native of Curacao. I love Curacao, man. I mean, on the hill, you've got Jair Jurgens, who came out of there, and of course, Kenley Jansen, but Ozzy Albies from Curacao.
Andrew Jones.
You've got Andrew Jones, Jurickson Profar. I said Andrew Jones, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think Andrew Jones. Then you've got Jurickson Profar, Jonathan Scope, Andrelton Simmons. I mean, this is kind of awesome. So Ceddane Rafaela might be the next guy. The next GOAT from Curacao. I had never heard of him. He is listed at 5'8", 152 pounds. He's not 5'8", 152.
There's no shot.
No, and I mean, like, he's just kind of a freak. I mean, a 940 OPS across high A and double.
With plus speed and plays outfield and plays all over the place. I mean, yeah, sign me up for guys like that. Good find by the Red Sox. Like you said, Curacao is a hotbed for talent. Next up is Spencer Steer. Spencer Steer of the Minnesota Twins organization. Second base, third base, has been one of the best performers in the minors this season, similar to how Jose Miranda really put it all together. Maybe not quite as dramatically, but has been that guy for the Twins so far this season. 19 homers, a ton of doubles as well, 23 doubles to go along with that. Doesn't strike out much. I believe in like the 16-17% range, walks at a near 10% clip. Just a really, really well-rounded ball player who probably projects more as a second baseman, but can play third if you need. Above average hit tool, above average power, above average speed. Similar to the way that Miranda just emerged and you're like, this guy is safe and solid. Won't make as much impact offensively, but is a little bit more versatile. It's another big leaguer that could be a very solid one for a good amount of time.
Yeah, I've got a really quick hit on Spencer Steer, but before that, one more thing on Ceddane Rafaela. His first is a full name, Ceddane Chipper Nicasio Marte Rafaela.
New favorite player.
New favorite player. Spencer Steer, my only thought on him is he is the lowest risk guy playing in this futures game.
Yes, up there for sure. I'd have to, maybe on the National League side, is there somebody?
I mean, the only guy that comes close on the American League side for me is Shea Langeliers.
Yeah. National League side, I'd go like Corbin Carroll.
But like Carroll's got a way higher ceiling. Like I think Steer's floor and ceiling are almost identical.
Yeah, they are almost identical. And it's a good big leaguer. And I think he's going to be a really solid option for them. And he could be a trade piece though. I mean, the Twins are going to be aggressive, and I'm sure teams would love to get a very close to big league ready infielder who can play multiple spots and bring some athleticism. An infielder who is untouchable, and the last infielder we'll talk about is Anthony Volpe, who we just talked about him on the Just Baseball show, actually. He has posted a 1,000 OPS over his last month or so. Has really just put it all together. He's striking out 10% of the time, 11% of the time over the span, hitting home runs, stealing a ton of bags. Like Anthony Volpe's fully back to that guy we were gushing over last year. And I love that he's overcome this adversity and is right back to being the guy that he was last year, now at the AA level. It's good for guys to hit a little bit of a wall when they climb and then work through it. Volpe has done exactly that. And that just makes me more and more confident. He's talking about floor. There's another dude that when you can do what he has done, work through looking like a disaster in the early parts of the season to be one of the best hitters in the minors over the last month plus, that's the kind of stuff that you look for. You talk about makeup, intangibles, and all those things. Volpe checks those boxes.
Yeah. He's Gleyber Torres, but hit 300 and he's everything that the Yankees wanted from Gleyber Torres.
Yes.
That's
correct.
what the Yankees hopeful are thinking about Anthony Volpe. Yeah. I mean, Volpe's the shortstop of the future for the New York Yankees.
Yeah. And that's cool. You're going to get to watch the shortstop of the future of the New York Yankees for maybe the next 15 years. I mean,
it took a while, but they finally have the heir to the Jeter throne. They thought it was Didi Gregorius. It wasn't Didi Gregorius. It's Anthony.
No,
Volpe.
he held it down fine enough. But if you ask me, aside from Judge, maybe one, a guy that's not currently on the big league roster yet, or has not been on the big league roster for 5 years or whatever, who could be the next guy to have his jersey retired, though the Yankees are running out of jerseys, I would go with Anthony Volpe. Like that's a guy that could play his whole career, Jersey kid, play his whole career in New York and have, be immortalized in New York there. And now they'll have like 5 jerseys left to be able to use.
Yeah. It's not going to be the outfield that we're about to talk about.
If you ask some Yankees fan, maybe Jasson Dominguez, we might as well go to him next. You know what, though? I will say, because I love to joke about Jasson Dominguez, just not even at Jasson Dominguez's expense. It's more at the expense of everybody who was so hyperbolic about this guy for so long. He's a good prospect, right? And I think in a lot of ways, there's dudes putting up better numbers that belong in this game, but you could look at Jasson Dominguez and say, he belongs in this game. And what he's been doing over the last, I would say, month or so, I'll just queue up the last 20 games. He's hitting 300, Jack, over his last 20 games for power, walking more, albeit this is his second stint in low A for the wonderkin generational switch hitting Mike Trout, Mickey Mantle that he was supposed to be, which again is just unfair to him. Yeah. Let's just look at him in a vacuum and ignore that for a second. Last 20 games in low A, 300, 424, 500 slash line. So 166 WRC plus, 18% walk rate, 22% K rate. Jasson Dominguez is finally doing things that he is supposed to do. And I think some of it might just be relaxing a little bit. When I watched him, it was like he was always trying to make that highlight reel swing. He's trying to hit that tape measure home run. He's trying to live up to the expectations that his card investors had when they put $10 trillion into his cards.
Yeah.
Now he looks like he's just trying to hit the ball and be a well-rounded baseball player. And it's refreshing to see. This is a much better version of Dominguez.
Think about Jasson Dominguez, 18-year-old. If you're not a first ballot Hall of Famer, you are a fucking failure. That's what Jasson Dominguez was dealing with last year. I mean, that's so unfair. I feel for him. Yeah, you mentioned the 18% walk rate. He's walking way more than a guy at his age with those tools should be walking, because he should be saying, I'm the most talented baseball player alive. People literally call me the Martian. I'm going to put balls into orbit. He tried to do it last year. He fell on his face. He came back this year and was like, wait, no, I'm just a really good baseball player. Like, let's look like that.
Yeah. And I'm glad he's doing that, because he is a good player, but he had to really hone in on the nuances of baseball, and he's starting to do that. He's starting to actually put good swings on baseballs, and it's okay to not, get your A+ swing off every time and things like that. So that is really good to see. A guy that also has some expectations as a very prized international free agent, a name I've been hearing about for a while, and the White Sox were able to scoop him up, is Oscar Colas. And there was some questions about Colas's bat to ball, and I always thought those were a bit overdone, because this was a player that was hitting really well in Japan, which is, we talk about how college is not the equivalent to the minor leagues. Japan is high A, maybe even pushing close. I would say it's probably more so high A. And he put up similar numbers in this high A stretch, where in 2022, 59 games so far this season, hit 7 home runs, hit 311, 369, 475. Colas is a powerful outfielder. He pitched a little bit too at times, and he's not going to pitch anymore, but it's a testament to his arm strength. Could be a fine corner guy if he moves well enough. But now up to Double-A, has had a couple of good games to start. I'm interested. I'm starting to be on Colas watch now. If he continues to hit at the Double-A level, he's a very intriguing prospect, but I'm excited to see him on that big stage, because he has the ability to hit some mammoth shots.
Yeah, and he's a former SoftBank Hawk, right? Was he teammates with Carter Stewart? I think he could have been teammates with Carter Stewart. That's pretty
cool. I honestly don't know.
I know he was teammates with former Chicago Cubs Tsuyoshi Wada, who is not allowed to see the lineup a third time through. But yeah, I mean, Colas, like, he's a big dude. He's hammering the hell out of the ball. He's going to be really interesting to watch in this game. And, this is a guy who a lot of pissed off White Sox fans are saying, just wait till Oscar Colas gets up.
Yeah. Well, Colson Montgomery probably should have been in this game too. And
yeah, Colson should have been in this game. And then Lenny and Sosa, obviously, but Sosa just made his big league debut.
For a White Sox system that absolutely stinks, those 3 guys are really helping salvage it with what they've done this year.
Yep.
That's it. Just yep.
Yep. Yeah. This team frustrates the hell out of me.
So we'll move on to Dustin Harris, who is a late addition.
Yeah.
I love Dustin Harris, and he has been really good at every stop over the last 2 years. Hits, I mean, I think pretty close to a plus hit tool. Tapping into more power, sneaky speed, can play a little bit all over. I'm a big Dustin Harris fan, and I'm interested to see how the Rangers decide to use him.
11 doubles, 14 homers, 17 stolen bases.
Yep.
So power and speed. He's hitting 260, struck out 64 times in 71 games. So he is, solid in the bat to ball department. He has good power. He's got good speed. Like there is something to like about every facet of Dustin Harris's game for sure.
High probability big leaguer, it seems like, who can do a little bit
and a high probability good one.
Yeah. I love that. I'm here for that. Can play first, can play outfield. I think you could sneak him at third if you really needed it. A good piece for them, and another good find, honestly, by the Texas Rangers. One of my favorite prospects in baseball, and I hope so much that he goes yard in this game, because George Valera he's the king of bat flips. George Valera is one of my favorite guys to watch bat flip, because he will bat flip opposite field home runs. Like he knows it right away. He pimps his homers as well as anybody. He has been one of the best hitters in the minors over the last 2 months. After a slow, sluggish start to his season in Double-A, the 21-year-old has just been dynamite over the last couple months. And the Guardians have a really good one here. Well inside of our top 100 list. Is going to climb even more in our update. He has been spectacular and is one of the most exciting prospects in this game. I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy watching this dude hitting 307 over his last 44 games, 11 home runs across that span, 10 doubles, 2 triples, not striking out much, walking a ton, extremely patient hitter. George Valera is one of my favorite guys to watch.
I was hoping that Valera was going to be up in AAA this week so I could see him before he headed off for the Futures game. The Indians are in Columbus right now. Alas, I have to settle for Richie Palacios, Will Brennan, and Will Benson. So woe is me, surely. I mean, Valera is getting too good for AA. He should be up. There's a chance he helps the Guardians this year if they're in a playoff push. He is as exciting as they come, and another guy that has a little bit more swing and miss than the prototypical Guardians prospect. But he's walking a good amount. He's got a 380 OBP compared to a 280 batting average. I mean, he's hitting really well, and he is as exciting as they come. I'm with you.
And it's funny. It's a good point. There is a little bit more swing and miss, but when you're so talented and so just unique,
his bat speed is dumb.
It's off the charts. And there's guys that are that good that force organizations to stray from their MO. Even the Rays, there's guys that are just so talented that they'll stray from their MO. Same thing with the Guardians here. I think they just watched Valera and they just probably said, he doesn't fit what we normally look for, but who cares?
He's really good. Let's just hold on to him.
Who cares? And I agree, because even if he's striking out a bit, similar to Nolan Gorman, his slugging on contact is so good. He walks more. He's really patient hitter. He will be able to contribute in some way. I think at the big league level, if they wanted to do that this year, we'll see if they decide to. But I love everything. This is probably, this guy along with Jose Ramirez could be one of your building blocks of the future in terms of what he can do offensively.
Easily. There are like 10 of them down there too. You see Jose Tena had a 4-hit day yesterday.
I'm excited. He might be sneaking past Roquillo.
You think so?
It might be for another time, but he might be sneaking up on Roquillo in terms of the bat. Somebody that has been very loud. There's no sneaking about this dude. And I don't know if you've seen him yet. No, he's AA, so you wouldn't have seen him. Matt Wallner, Minnesota Twins. You'll probably see him soon. I think he just got promoted to triple. Outfielder, more of a corner masher, but masher is the word. 21 jacks in 78 games this year. And he is striking out 31% of the time, but walking 18% of the time. So much power, really impacts the baseball, and he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, so I saw him out on the Cape in 2018 with Falmouth. He hit 4 homers as a Falmouth Commodore. I think he hit 6 against Brewster. So of the 4, 6 of which came against the Brewster.
Oh, yeah.
He just annihilated the Brewster Whitecaps. Yeah, I mean, Wallner is a massive guy with massive power, and he's a normal looking 6'5" guy. You know what I mean? Like Chris Bryant's built like that, where he's 6'5", but he just looks like you or I, but if we were enlarged. Yeah. That's what Matt Wallner looks like. And he plays like it too. He plays like a very well coordinated big dude.
Mm-hmm. What's wild though is he hits the ball like he's built like a linebacker. Like the impact is crazy. He's hit some of the most towering shots of the year. And I'm excited to see a little bit more of him at the AAA level. I want to see how the baseball flies off his bat, with the big league baseballs. And I'm very intrigued to see what kind of power upside there is here. But I think 30 plus is very clear. That could easily be the home run potential that this guy has. Last player is Denzel Clark. We don't know too much on him, but I could just tell you how physically projectable he is at 6'5", 220 pounds, 22 years old. Already starting to tap into that power. 10 home runs in 56 games between low A and high A in that A's organization. A lot of swing and miss. He's striking out about 34% of the time between the two levels, but a lot of power, and he's walking a decent amount. I'm excited to just see Denzel Clark because I've not watched. I don't know much on him, but when you hear that frame, when you hear the upside, you got to think that there's something here if he can just find a way to make enough contact.
17 for 19 in stolen bases.
That too. He could be a really well-rounded athlete.
He's great lineage. He could be a really well-rounded athlete. He's also got some great lineage. He's cousins of the Nailers, Bo and Josh.
Oh, is he really?
Another Canadian guy who's cousins with Bo Naylor and Josh Naylor. So he's got good people around him, and I think he has the chance to climb quick.
It's just the swing and miss. That's the only thing.
That's it.
If he can, and the thing is he walks, slugging on contacts high, good athlete. We'll see how he gets acclimated in high A. I mean, if he can keep it under 30% like he did in low A and continue to walk and hit for power, he could climb up a little bit quickly. And this is really his first legitimate minor league season. He only got a little bit of a taste of the complex last year. So this is really his first opportunity to play in pro ball. Be patient with him if you're an A's fan, but you need more prospects like this when your system's not as good as it should be. And hopefully Clark can develop into a nice piece for them.
100%, my man. This was fun.
We got through it. That was a lot of fun. Looking forward to this game. I'm sure we'll share our thoughts and recap it all after the weekend. We'll circle back next week. We also will have some more discussion on, I would probably say we got to talk a little bit about the update on Baseball America's top 100 list. I would love to break that down with you next week. So we'll do that. That'll do it for this episode of the Call Up. We will talk to you all on Monday.